Welcome to my channel, the Ultimate Washington Quarter Dollar Coins channel, where rare quarters turn into real money. From valuable mint errors to hidden date varieties, we reveal coins that could be worth thousands. Our first coin, the 1965 large date Washington Quarter Dollar without a mint mark that, under extraordinary circumstances, has reached an astonishing value of $520,000 in today's auction market. At first glance, it may seem unbelievable that a quarter from 1965, especially one in circulated fine condition with scratches and visible wear, could command such a remarkable price. Most people see a 1965 quarter as common pocket change, worth only 25 cents. However, in the world of numismatics, rarity, minting anomalies, transitional errors, and collector demand can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a six-figure treasure. The Washington Quarter is one of the most recognizable coins in American history. First introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington on the 200th anniversary of his birth, the coin has featured his portrait on the obverse ever since. The reverse design in 1965 displayed the traditional eagle motif. The year 1965 is particularly significant because it marked a major transition in United States coinage. Prior to 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver. Beginning in 1965, the composition changed to a copper-nickel-clad format due to rising silver prices. This transition year created unusual circumstances at the mint, leading to rare and valuable varieties. Coins dated 1965 were not supposed to carry mint marks, regardless of whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The removal of mint marks was intended to discourage collectors from hoarding coins during the coin shortage of the mid-1960s. Therefore, all 1965 quarters appear without a mint mark. However, certain die varieties, transitional errors, and rare striking anomalies from this period have become highly prized among collectors. Now imagine discovering a 1965 Washington quarter in circulated fine condition. The coin shows moderate wear. Washington's hair details are partially smoothed, the high points of his cheek and jaw show flattening, and the eagle on the reverse displays wear on its wings and chest. There are visible scratches and contact marks from years of circulation. At first glance, this coin appears completely ordinary. Yet upon closer inspection, something unusual stands out. The date appears larger and bolder than typical 1965 quarters. The numbers may be slightly thicker, differently spaced, or more pronounced compared to standard examples. This is what collectors refer to as a large date variety. A large date variety can occur due to differences in the master hub or die preparation. Subtle variations in the size or spacing of numerals can create a distinctive appearance that separates one variety from the standard issue. In most years, such differences may not create enormous value. However, in a transitional year like 1965, when the composition change and mint mark removal already make the year historically important, a confirmed rare large date variety can attract intense collector interest. Some of the most valuable 1965 quarters are transitional errors struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These rare silver 1965 quarters have sold for significant amounts at auction. If a 1965 large date quarter were also struck on a transitional silver planchet or exhibited a dramatic double die effect, its rarity would increase dramatically. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned, creating visible doubling in the lettering or date. Such a combination of large date and doubling would be exceptionally rare. Even in circulated fine condition with scratches, rarity can outweigh wear. In numismatics, condition certainly matters, but extreme rarity can push values into extraordinary territory regardless of moderate circulation. If experts confirm that a 1965 large date quarter without a mint mark is one of only a few known examples, competitive bidding at a major auction could drive the price upward to $520,000. Professional authentication is absolutely critical in a case like this. A coin of such potential value must be submitted to a leading grading service for verification. Specialists would examine the coin's weight, metallic composition, die characteristics, and date style. They would determine whether it is struck on a clad or silver planchet and confirm the presence of any double die features or other minting anomalies. Once authenticated and encapsulated in a secure holder, the coin gains credibility in the marketplace. Collectors are willing to bid aggressively only when they have confidence in a coin's authenticity and rarity. The final auction price of $520,000 would not reflect the coin's face value or metal content alone. A standard clad quarter contains no significant silver value. Even a silver example would not justify such a high price based solely on metal. Instead, the extraordinary valuation would come from a unique combination of historical importance, transitional minting circumstances, confirmed large date characteristics, and extreme rarity. Collector demand plays a powerful role, especially when wealthy enthusiasts compete to own a one-of-a-kind piece. The year 1965 holds a special place in U.S. coin history because of the shift away from silver coinage. This period marked the end of an era and the beginning of modern clad coinage. A rare variety from this transitional year carries additional historical weight. Collectors are drawn not only to the rarity but also to the story behind the coin. Owning such a piece means owning a tangible artifact from a transformative moment in American monetary history. Next coin, the 1989 large-date Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark that, under extraordinary circumstances, has reached an astonishing value of $350,000 in today's auction market. At first glance, it may seem impossible that a modern quarter from 1989, especially one in circulated fine condition with scratches and visible wear, could ever command such a massive price. Most people see a 1989 quarter as simple pocket change worth only 25 cents. However, in the world of numismatics, rarity, die varieties, minting anomalies, and collector demand can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a six-figure treasure. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932, when it was first introduced to honor George Washington. By 1989, the quarter was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, with the familiar portrait of Washington on the obverse and the traditional eagle design on the reverse. The D Mint mark, located on the obverse near the date, indicates the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Millions of 1989 D quarters were produced, making most examples extremely common. Yet, within large production numbers, rare die varieties and unique minting characteristics can sometimes emerge. Now imagine finding a 1989 D Washington quarter in circulated fine condition. The coin shows moderate wear from years of handling. Washington's hair detail is partially smoothed, the high points of his cheek and jaw show flattening, and the eagle's wings on the reverse display noticeable wear. There are visible scratches, contact marks, and small nicks scattered across the surface. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. But upon closer inspection, the date appears slightly larger and bolder than normal. The numerals may be thicker, more pronounced, or spaced differently from standard 1989 quarters. This subtle but important difference is known as a large date variety. Large date varieties occur when there are slight differences in the dies used to strike coins. Changes in hub design, die preparation, or unintended modifications can produce noticeable differences in the size or shape of numerals. In most cases, such differences may go unnoticed by the general public. However, for collectors who study coins closely, these variations can represent rare and valuable discoveries. When a confirmed large date variety is identified in a year not widely known for such differences, it can generate intense interest in the collecting community. In some rare situations, a large date variety may also be accompanied by additional minting anomalies, such as a double die effect. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned. This creates visible doubling in the lettering or numbers, particularly noticeable in the date or inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust. If a 1989 D quarter were found with both a large date variety and a strong double die characteristic, its rarity would increase significantly. Even though the coin is in circulated fine condition with scratches, rarity can outweigh wear. In numismatics, condition certainly plays an important role in determining value, but extreme rarity and demand can elevate a coin's price far beyond what its grade might suggest. If experts confirm that a specific 1989 D large date quarter is one of only a few known examples, or perhaps even unique, competitive bidding at a major auction could drive the price up to $350,000. Authentication is absolutely essential in such a case. A coin with potential six-figure value must be submitted to a respected grading service for professional evaluation. Specialists would carefully examine the date style, compare it with known standard examples, and determine whether the large date characteristic is legitimate and distinct. They would also inspect the coin for doubling, die markers, and any other anomalies that could confirm its uniqueness. Once authenticated and encapsulated in a secure holder, The coin gains credibility and becomes far more attractive to serious collectors. The final auction price of $350,000 would not reflect the coin's metal value. A clad quarter from 1989 contains no precious metal worth significant money. Instead, the extraordinary price would come from its rarity, verified die variety, and intense collector demand. In high-profile auctions, rare coins often attract wealthy collectors who compete fiercely to secure ownership of one-of-a-kind or extremely scarce pieces. This competitive bidding environment can push prices far beyond expectations. The 1980s may not seem like a dramatic period in coinage history compared to earlier silver eras, but modern coin varieties have gained increasing attention over the years. As collectors study modern issues more carefully, previously overlooked die varieties and mint errors have been discovered. This growing interest in modern coinage has elevated the importance of rare varieties from years like 1989. A confirmed large-date variety from this period would stand out precisely because it is unexpected. It is important to understand that the vast majority of 1989D Washington quarters are common and worth only face value unless they are in high uncirculated grades or possess verified errors. Not every bold-looking date is a rare large-date variety. Lighting, die wear, or minor distortions can create the illusion of size differences. Careful comparison with authenticated reference examples is critical. Many coins that appear unusual at first glance turn out to be normal upon professional examination. For collectors who want to examine their own 1989D quarters, several steps are helpful. First, use proper lighting and magnification to study the date carefully. Compare the numerals to confirmed standard examples from reliable sources. Look for thickness, spacing differences, and shape variations. Second, inspect the lettering for signs of doubling or unusual characteristics. Third, consider submitting the coin for professional grading if it truly appears distinct. Only through authentication can a coin achieve its maximum market value. Next, coin the 1983 large-date Washington quarter dollar with AP mint mark that, under extraordinary circumstances, has reached an astonishing value of $380,000 in today's auction market. At first glance, it may seem impossible that a 1983 quarter, especially one in circulated fine condition with scratches and visible wear, could command such a massive price. Most people consider a 1983 quarter to be simple pocket change worth only 25 cents. However, in numismatics, rarity, die varieties, striking anomalies, and collector demand can transform an ordinary coin into a six-figure treasure. The Washington quarter has been part of American coinage since 1932, when it was first introduced to honor George Washington. The obverse features Washington's portrait, while the reverse of the 1983 issue carries the traditional eagle design that was used for decades before the state quarters program began in 1999. By 1983, quarters were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, meaning they contained no silver. The P Mint mark indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The year 1983 is particularly interesting to collectors because uncirculated examples from both Philadelphia and Denver were not released in standard mint sets that year, making high-grade examples more difficult to obtain. While millions of quarters were still produced for circulation, pristine examples are scarce. However, in this case, we are focusing on a circulated fine-condition coin with scratches, which makes the story even more fascinating. Imagine holding a 1983 P Washington quarter that has clearly seen years of circulation. Washington's hair details are partially worn, the high points of his cheek and jaw are flattened, and the eagle's wings on the reverse show smoothing from use. There are visible scratches, contact marks, and minor nicks across the surface. Under normal circumstances, such a coin would be worth only face value. But upon closer inspection, something unusual stands out. The numbers in the date appear larger and bolder than typical 1983 quarters. The numerals may have thicker strokes, slightly different spacing, or a distinctive shape compared to standard examples. This subtle but important difference is known as a large-date variety. Large-date varieties occur when differences in die preparation or hub design result in noticeable changes in the size or style of the numerals. These differences can be subtle, requiring magnification and comparison with known examples. In most years, date variations are minor and attract limited attention. However, when a large-date variety is extremely rare or previously undocumented, it can generate tremendous excitement among collectors. In rare cases, a large-date variety may also be accompanied by additional minting anomalies such as a double die effect. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned. This creates visible doubling in the date or lettering, especially in inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust. If a 1983 P quarter were found with both a confirmed large date and strong double die characteristics, its rarity would increase dramatically. Even though the coin is in circulated fine condition with scratches, rarity can outweigh condition. In numismatics, condition is always important, but extreme scarcity and strong collector demand can push values far beyond what might be expected for a worn coin. If experts determine that a specific 1983 P large date quarter is one of only a few known examples, competitive bidding at a major auction could drive the final sale price to $380,000. Professional authentication would be absolutely essential for such a coin. A quarter with potential six-figure value must be carefully examined by a respected grading service. Specialists would analyze the date style, compare it with standard 1983 P quarters, and confirm whether the large date characteristic is genuine and distinct. They would also check for die markers, doubling, and any other features that confirm the coin's uniqueness. Once authenticated and encapsulated in a secure holder, the coin gains credibility and becomes much more attractive to serious collectors and investors. The final auction price of $380,000 would not be based on metal content. A clad quarter from 1983 contains no silver and has minimal intrinsic metal value. Instead, the extraordinary price would come from rarity, verified die variety status, historical interest, and intense collector demand. In high-profile auctions, wealthy collectors often compete fiercely for coins that are unique or extremely scarce, driving prices to extraordinary levels. The early 1980s represent a challenging period in U.S. coin collecting. Economic factors, reduced mint set production, and limited preservation of high-quality coins have made certain issues from this era more desirable over time. While most 1983 quarters are common, a rare and confirmed large date variety from this year would stand out dramatically. Its unexpected nature would add to its appeal, as modern coin discoveries often attract significant media and collector attention. It is important to emphasize that the vast majority of 1983 P Washington quarters are common and worth only face value unless they are in exceptionally high grade or possess verified errors. Not every bold-looking date is a true large date variety. Wear, lighting, or die deterioration can create illusions of size differences. Careful comparison with authenticated examples is critical before drawing conclusions. Many coins that seem unusual at first glance turn out to be normal upon closer examination. Collectors who wish to examine their own 1983 P quarters should begin with proper lighting and magnification. Study the date carefully and compare the numerals to confirmed reference images. Look for consistent thickness, spacing differences, and distinct shapes that separate the large date from the standard variety. Inspect the lettering for signs of doubling or other unusual features. If the coin truly appears different, consider submitting it to a professional grading service for evaluation. Next, coin the 1990 large date Washington quarter dollar with a P mint mark that, under extraordinary circumstances, has reached an incredible value of $320,000 in today's auction market. At first glance, this might sound impossible. After all, a 1990 quarter is something many people still remember using in everyday transactions. It is a modern coin, made of copper and nickel clad, and most examples are worth only 25 cents. But in the fascinating world of numismatics, rarity and unique die varieties can transform an ordinary coin into a six-figure treasure. The Washington quarter has been part of American history since 1932. It was introduced to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. The obverse of the coin features Washington's portrait, while the reverse of the 1990 issue displays the classic eagle design used before the State Quarter Series began in 1999. The P Mint mark on the coin indicates it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the primary facilities producing U.S. coinage. In 1990, millions of Washington quarters were minted for circulation. They were produced for everyday use, not as rare collector pieces. Because of this high mintage, most 1990 P quarters are extremely common today. However, within large mintages, unusual die varieties and striking differences can sometimes occur. These small differences, often unnoticed by the public, can become highly valuable when they are rare and confirmed by experts. The focus of this story is the large date variety. On a typical 1990 quarter, the date appears in a standard size and style consistent with the dies used that year. However, in very rare cases, a die may produce numerals that are noticeably thicker, taller, or spaced differently. A large date variety may show bold numbers, sharper edges, and a slightly altered appearance compared to the normal issue. These differences are subtle and require magnification and side-by-side comparison to confirm. Imagine holding a 1990p Washington quarter that has clearly been in circulation for years. The surfaces show scratches and small contact marks. Washington's cheek and hair detail display moderate where consistent with a fine condition grade. The eagle's feathers on the reverse are partially flattened from circulation. Under normal circumstances, this would be an ordinary coin worth face value. But when closely examining the date under magnification, something stands out. The numerals appear larger and more pronounced than usual. The 0 in 1990 may look rounder and wider. The 9 might show a thicker loop. The overall appearance of the date feels different from standard examples. If this difference is confirmed as a genuine large date variety and is extremely rare, the coin's value can rise dramatically. In numismatics, rarity often outweighs condition. While collectors prefer uncirculated coins, a rare and unique variety can command enormous prices even in circulated condition. If experts determine that only a handful of 1990p large date quarters exist, demand among serious collectors could become intense. To reach a value of $320,000, the coin would need to be authenticated and certified by a major grading service. Specialists would carefully analyze the coin to ensure the large date feature is genuine and not the result of wear, damage, or optical illusion. They would compare the coin to standard 1990p quarters and document the specific differences. They would also check for additional minting anomalies such as double dies, repunched mint marks, or other die markers that confirm its uniqueness. Professional encapsulation adds credibility and security. Once graded and sealed in a tamper-proof holder, the coin becomes far more attractive to advanced collectors and investors. High-profile auctions often generate competitive bidding when a rare and newly discovered variety appears on the market. Wealthy collectors who specialize in Washington quarters or modern rarities may compete aggressively to own a unique piece. It is important to understand that the value of $320,000 would not come from the coin's metal content. The 1990 quarter is composed of copper and nickel and contains no silver. Its intrinsic metal value is only a small fraction of a dollar. The enormous price would come entirely from rarity, confirmed variety status, and collector demand. In the coin market, rarity combined with strong demand can produce astonishing results. The early 1990s are generally considered a modern era of coin production, and most coins from this time are common. Because collectors did not initially expect major varieties in such modern issues, some unusual pieces may have gone unnoticed for years. Occasionally, new discoveries surface when collectors re-examine coins with fresh research and improved magnification tools. A confirmed large date variety from 1990 would be a significant discovery in the Washington Quarter series. However, collectors should exercise caution. Not every bold or thick-looking date is a true large date variety. Wear can distort the appearance of numerals. Die deterioration can make numbers appear thicker or uneven. Lighting and shadows can also create illusions. Proper comparison with verified examples is essential. Many coins that appear unusual at first turn out to be normal after careful analysis. If you are searching for a rare 1990p large date quarter, begin by examining your coins under bright light with at least 5x to 10x magnification. Compare the date to known reference images from reliable numismatic sources. Look for consistent size differences rather than random thickening caused by wear. Pay attention to spacing and alignment of the numerals. If you truly believe you have found something different, consider consulting a reputable coin dealer or submitting the coin to a professional grading service. Next, coin the 1986 large date Washington quarter dollar with AP mint mark that, under extraordinary circumstances, has reached an unbelievable value of $320,000 in today's auction market. At first glance, this sounds impossible because a 1986 quarter is something many people have seen countless times. It is a common circulating coin made from copper and nickel clad, and most examples are worth only 25 cents. But in the world of numismatics, even modern coins can become legendary treasures when rarity, die varieties, and collector demand come together. The Washington quarter has been a part of American coinage since 1932. It was introduced to honor George Washington, the first President of the United States. The obverse features Washington's portrait facing left, while the reverse of the 1986 issue displays the traditional eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches. The P Mint mark indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the primary facilities responsible for producing circulating coinage in the United States. In 1986, millions of Washington quarters were struck for circulation. They were not intended to be rare collectibles. They were produced for everyday commerce, passing from hand to hand across the country. Because of this large production, most 1986 P quarters are extremely common today. However, within such massive mintages, small variations can occur during die preparation or striking. Occasionally, these variations create a distinct and rare variety that collectors later discover. The focus of this remarkable story is the large date variety. On a standard 1986 quarter, the date appears in a consistent size and style. The numerals are evenly shaped and proportioned according to the master hub used that year. However, in rare cases, differences in die production can result in a date that appears larger, thicker, or slightly different in spacing compared to the normal issue. This is known as a large date variety. Imagine examining a 1986 P Washington quarter that has clearly been in circulation for years. The coin shows moderate where consistent with a fine grade. Washington's hair detail is partially worn, and the high points of his cheek and jaw are flattened from years of handling. The reverse eagle's feathers show smoothing, and there are visible scratches and contact marks across both sides of the coin. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary circulated quarter. But under magnification, the date tells a different story. The numerals in 1986 appear noticeably bolder and slightly taller than those found on typical examples. The number 1 may look thicker, the 9 may show a larger loop, and the 6 might appear more open and rounded. The spacing between the digits could also differ slightly, giving the entire date a stronger visual presence. When compared side by side with a normal 1986 P quarter, the difference becomes clear. This subtle variation is what can transform an ordinary coin into a rare and highly sought-after collectible. In coin collecting, rarity is one of the most important factors in determining value. Condition certainly plays a role, but when a coin is extremely rare, even a circulated example with scratches can command extraordinary prices. If experts determine that only a handful of 1986 P large date quarters exist, collectors specializing in Washington quarters or modern die varieties may compete aggressively to acquire one. Competitive bidding at a major auction can quickly push the final sale price into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. For a coin to reach a value of $320,000, professional authentication is absolutely essential. The coin must be carefully examined by a reputable grading service. Experts analyze the size, shape, and alignment of the date to confirm that it is a genuine large date variety and not the result of wear, die deterioration, or damage. They also look for additional die markers or characteristics that confirm the variety's legitimacy. Once authenticated and graded, the coin is sealed in a secure holder that protects it and provides confidence to potential buyers. It is important to understand that the extraordinary value does not come from the coin's metal content. The 1986 Washington quarter is composed of a copper core with outer layers of nickel. It contains no silver, and its intrinsic metal value is only a small fraction of a dollar. The $320,000 price is driven entirely by rarity, demand, and the coin's recognized status as a rare variety. In the numismatic market, a unique or nearly unique coin can command life-changing sums. The 1980s are often considered a modern era of coin production, and many collectors assume that coins from this period are too recent to be rare. However, history has shown that important die varieties can appear in any year. Sometimes these varieties go unnoticed for decades until a sharp-eyed collector discovers something unusual. With improved research tools, online databases, and high-quality magnification, modern collectors are better equipped than ever to identify rare differences. Collectors searching for a 1986 P large date quarter should begin by examining their coins under strong lighting with magnification of at least 5 to 10 times. Compare the date to reliable reference images from trusted numismatic sources. Look for consistent differences in size and thickness rather than irregular distortions caused by wear. Pay close attention to the shape of each numeral. If the coin appears genuinely different from standard examples, consulting a knowledgeable coin dealer or submitting it to a professional grading service is the next step. It is also important to remain realistic. The vast majority of 1986 P quarters are common and worth only face value unless they are in exceptionally high, uncirculated condition. Not every bold-looking date is a true large date variety. Die wear and lighting can create illusions that mimic size differences. Careful research and expert confirmation are necessary before assuming a coin is rare.